Okay, so this shir today is going to be, it's not going to be a long shir. It's going to be a bit about the Parsha. I didn't give you the Parsha shir, so we're going to do it now. It's also an interesting concept that's connected to Hanoch asked the question previously about the rewards that Am Yisrael receive in the future, in the world to come. So we're going to talk about that as well. And that is basically the general idea of the shir today. So there's another question, there's a general question about, going a bit back, why do we need to get rewards at all? We know that one of the promises is that, first of all, once the neshama leaves the body here, it goes up to Gan Eden, to heaven, and it receives a reward in heaven. And sometimes the neshama needs to be purified through going through a process in Gehenom, but that's only to make it purified so it can actually enter Gan Eden afterwards. So the purpose is Gan Eden, and there the neshama stays. There's no need for it to come back down again into the world, so it will stay there, the neshama. And then there's the world to come, which means when Mashiach will come, we know that there's going to be a certain change in the world, and the world will be elevated, and then we'll receive the ultimate reward, the best reward. So in other words, there's the temporary reward. It's like telling us, after working so hard in the world, you've got a waiting room, which is Gan Eden, where you connect again to Hashem and enjoy Hashem, lihisaneg al havaye, as it says in Chazal. But that's stage one. Then there's stage two. The next level is basically connecting to the world to come, to the times of Mashiach, when that's not anymore a waiting room, but that's the purpose. That is the purpose of the whole creation. If you try and see that the way that Hashem created the world over 5,000 years ago, and where it's leading to which point, so it's leading to, the purpose is to actually get to the last point, which is the world to come. Here's a question. Why do we deserve rewards at all? Why should we deserve a reward? So this is up to you. What would you say? Why should anyone receive a reward for the mitzvot that we do in this world?
It's a goal.
Right? We do them. So in other words, you're saying that we don't have to do them. We decide to do them, and therefore you deserve a reward. Like comparing it to what we know in the world today. So even regular work is in a certain way rewarded, right? You work for someone and you get rewarded your salary. That's the way it works. Because that's something you don't need to do. What if we need to do Torah and mitzvahs? If we would look at that in the perspective that this is something mandatory, this is something that should be done, that must be done. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What if we would look at the things in the world, the mitzvahs that we do in the world, the mitzvahs that we are obligated to do, as an obligation, as something that we must do no matter what? For example, we're going to say in the tefillot of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're going to say that there are certain titles that we give Am Yisrael and Hashem, and the connection between Am Yisrael and Hashem. We are sometimes called the children of Hashem. We are sometimes called the servants of Hashem. We are sometimes called the people of Hashem.
Army of Hashem.
Army of Hashem, right. It's interesting. Actually, the army of Hashem isn't mentioned. Tzva Hashem. I'm trying to think what would be the example for Tzva Hashem.
That's Chabad.
The Rebbe always used to speak about the army of Hashem, especially the Teitzei Hashem, the young children, that they are.
They used to have the young
Rallies.
children dressed up with hats on and.
Right, the rallies, the uniforms, right?
Yeah.
Teitzei Hashem, the armies of Hashem.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of titles. That Am Yisrael has. One of these titles is servants of Hashem or children of Hashem. A son doesn't get rewarded often, and a servant doesn't get rewarded often. Especially in previous times, when a servant was actually a real servant, he belonged to his owner. And in that way, we describe Am Yisrael, ourselves, our souls, as children of Hashem. And not only as children of Hashem, but also as servants of Hashem. We are fully obligated to doing what He wants. That is the point at the end of the day. So why should there be some kind of reward in the first place? Why should there be a reward? Even without a reward, we are obligated to do that. And if we don't do that, we're in trouble. In other words, why do we need to be rewarded for something that we are obligated to do? So that's a question that is brought in various places, in Chassidut especially.
You have free will, you don't have to do it. So,
So you're bringing up an interesting point.
if you do the mitzvahs, then Hashem is going to reward you for it. But if you don't do them, there's also consequences.
Right.
Consequences.
Okay. So this is a good point. You're saying that we are faced challenges. We have free will. What is free will? Free will means that or I can do it or I can't do it. And if I decide to do it, that's something that I deserve a reward for. So this is an interesting point. But if we would look at it in an approach of Gvura, in a strict approach, so we would say that, yes, even a son sometimes has challenges. Even a servant has challenges. It's not like his only thing that he wants to do is to go and work for his master. But nevertheless, he does not get a reward. He gets support. He gets the basic needs, but he doesn't get rewards. Why do we describe it as a reward? You know what? You're right. Someone that actually does the mitzvot, he overcomes the Yetzer Hara, he deserves to receive good. But why do we describe it as a reward? A reward in a certain way is something that you don't have to do, but because you decided to do it, even a salary isn't described as a reward. Because it's not really a reward. You deserve it. When we are talking about Gan Eden, which by the way, Gan Eden and the next world is a greater reward, much more than what we actually achieve and do in this world. It's not like we are doing a fair amount to receive that reward. That reward, we can't even imagine it. In Chazal, it doesn't talk about it. We know that other religions try and describe the reward that will be there, and sometimes they put it in physical terms even. So we know that the world to come and Gan Eden is way higher than the terms that we use in this world. The enjoyment, the hana'ah that we receive from Hashem in the world to come and in Gan Eden is much higher than what we work for here. So why do we receive that? You're right. We do receive something for what we do, but we should receive the same as a son receives, the same as a servant receives. Nothing beyond. Why do we receive this special reward in Gan Eden?
A Jewish servant, his master has to treat him the same way he treats himself. That's the reward.
Right.
So a servant does get a reward from a...
It's a good point.
Compensation, it's not a reward.
Exactly, that's the point. That it's in a certain way, it's compensation for what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He does it, and with a Jewish servant, he gets the same compensation as his master gets.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a non-Jewish servant that just gets his needs, whatever he needs, but there's no special additional supplies for him. So the question is once again, why do we receive a reward? There's would you like to say something? Yes.
I think about the wider picture is Hashem built a system of justice, like reward and punishment.
Right.
It's all the time this balance. Huh?
Right.
So my question was, if Hashem wouldn't build such a system with reward and punishment, what would be then another system? I just thought in a second it would be anarchy.
Right.
Everybody can do what they want. Yeah. That doesn't go that long, that system.
Right.
So Hashem in the wisdom, he built this system of punishment and reward.
And punishment and reward.
But the question is still why it has to be like that.
Right. So
I don't have an answer on that. Yeah?
right. It's a good point, because Hashem does if there won't be a balance, not only balance, certain way to tell people what to do is to give them reward and punishment. So once again, if we would call it compensation, I would agree with you totally. Yes, Hashem gives a person compensation if he does good, and if he does bad, he takes away that compensation and even punishes him in order for him to do what's needed to be done. But why is there an additional reward?
Yeah.
Why is it extra?
Like you said, the salary, that makes a good point. You get a salary for the work you have done to the boss. Huh?
Exactly.
So now, but what is more lovely, beloved is when the boss gives you a compliment for the work.
Very good.
That's something more.
Right, that's something additional.
Yeah, and that makes you good. You need the money for the bread and to feed the children, but the compliment, maybe that lifts you up. Huh?
Right, 100%. So, if
Does it have to do with motivation?
yeah, also that brings motivation into it.
Motivation, yeah.
What we are doing is we're trying to look in the eyes of the nefesh elokit, in the eyes of the godly soul. In the eyes of the godly soul, there's no need really for such a motivation or such a compliment that will cause this motivation, because the godly soul anyways wants to do good. It anyways wants to do what Hashem wants. The only thing that's standing in front of it and stopping it is the nefesh abamit, the yetzer hara. So again, even there are certain work societies that compliments don't help. If you in a Japanese society, so I'm not sure that compliments always would help, because they are very strict with what they do. They know what they need to do, and they do it fully in the best way without compliments.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, why does the neshama need to receive the reward? And again, in the world to come, in Gan Eden, who is receiving the reward? The body or the soul? Not the body, the soul. And why does the soul need that reward? Why does the soul need that reward? Maybe the nefesh habahamit and the body, that would need some kind of push to do what's good. But the nefesh elokit does not need any kind of push. Certainly it doesn't need a reward. Okay, there's a story about a king. It's not a story, it's a mashal. A mashal is an example to try and explain. There was once a king that he had gold, diamonds, silver, special gemstones, sapphire, etc., etc. He never used to use this. He kept it in his in a hidden place in Otzar HaMelech, the treasury of the king. This treasury of the king was never to be used, and it was just in its place. They had guards around it. They made sure that every single day someone checks that there's nothing missing, and each guard had another guard making sure that he everything to do to make sure that this was safe. And so they all ask this king, tell me, what is the purpose of you having all these treasures in a safe? If you're not using the treasures for war or for paying your expenses, for paying your people, then why do you need these treasures? So the king says yes, he has extra money that comes from taxes, and with that he manages his country, he manages the people, he gives, he pays for his costs, but still he never touches that treasury. That treasury stays there, the treasure stays there and belongs to the king. They keep it safe, never to be used. Even if there's a war, they're not going to use it. Do you have any idea why the king has this treasury?
Just in case.
Just in case. So you're saying that Hanoch is telling us that basically it is to be used one day in a case where there won't be any money left. What happens in a case where 100% there'll be something else? He's also got other reserves where he's got that. He'll still keep that treasure over there. Why?
Well, it's much of the same concept that Yosef implemented when he was in Egypt. He took the grains, put them in the storehouses, not to be used until there was the famine. Then they had the reserves that they can then sell and then enslave the people to be beholden to the Pharaoh, because they had used up all of their resources and now they needed to use the king's resources.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So this is an example that you're giving, a good example from the Tanakh, that we see such a story where a king always needs to keep something extra. Right. So again, in such a case, 100% that would be the use for the treasure. But let's say he has extra supplies. But he has these diamonds or these special jewels that you can't even sell them in the market. They will never to become of use. No one will ever use them. But they are so special, they are so unique. Why would be what would be the reason that the king would keep such a treasure? So 100%, there's the part where the king has to make sure that he has money to maintain the kingdom, and in addition to that, extras extras for the extras. But there is a treasure that the king never uses. The king never uses, and this reminds me of a story that it reminds me of a story where there was one person that he wanted to start a business. And he got from a few friends some money for the first investment, 200,000 shekels. And the first thing he goes to do, he buys himself a Tesla, the new Tesla car. He buys it, and that's where he invests the money. Friends come to him and tell him, "What's this? We gave you 200,000 shekel, not for buying extras and buying these fancy cars." And after you gain profit, after your business is successful, no problem, then you're more than welcome to go and buy whatever you want. But you're taking our money for your own pleasure. So he told them, "You've got to understand, when I come to a business meeting and people see me walking in with a Tesla, that gives them a whole different approach. This person looks serious. This person is trustworthy. This person is successful. I want to do business with him. I want to keep in touch with him." It's a different approach to the whole understanding. And they said, "Well, you're 100% right. If that's the purpose of it, so definitely this is the way to go. This is the way to go, and you'll for sure be successful."
That's why the king has that treasure.
Oh, that's why the king has that treasure.
Yeah,
Very nice. Explain. What do you mean?
He gets the respect of all the people because he has all that to back him up.
Oh, that's the point. The king has the treasure not only for use, for sure in times, in certain times, maybe he'll even use them. The purpose of having these treasures is because it's part of the king. It's part of what makes the king so special. What makes a king so special? The king is a human being like anyone else. Usually, maybe he's a bit more talented, he's a bit smarter, he's a bit stronger, he's a bit taller. Not always. But what makes a king special? A lot of it has to do with what surrounds him, what helps him to become a king. It's not always the person. Sometimes it's about the decorations. It's about his his treasures that he has. For example, the prime minister always walks with. He's got 8 cars, and he's got bodyguards in the Knesset when it's all safe. He's got 6 bodyguards that walk with him in the Knesset. This has a huge impact on the person. It makes him grow into his position. He grows into the position. He understands the huge position that he is because of what surrounds him, because of the show that goes around him. Yes, that's how it works. Who said, the person that told us this rule, the first person that told us is Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan told us, quote from the Gemara, Man mane mechabdusa, which means, what are the clothes of a person? What's the clothing that a person wears? That's so who is the person? His clothing. If you want to, sometimes you can see people, you'll tell the person, the way you dress, that's who you are.
But on the other hand, Hashem says a king shouldn't have too much gold and silver.
It's a good point. Very good point. Not too many wives, not too many horses, and not
too much money.
Money, right, 100%. Because that is a king that having too much might overdo things and he'll forget about Hashem. We always have to have that in mind. So the king isn't supposed to overdo it, but he has to have it. He has to have the basic to make him a king, because that is part of it. And once again, Rabbi Yochanan said, how is a person defined sometimes? He's defined according to his clothing. Because if you see a person that wears a certain style, you'll say, oh, well, this person is like that. It's not always good to do, but that's the way people look. That's the way people...
superficial, Rabbi.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But let me give you an example where it becomes a bit more realistic. It becomes a bit more realistic when we talk about our actions, deeds, talks, and thoughts. Right? What is the obligation of us to do? Do we need to change our personalities? Do we need to change our mindsets? Hasidus teaches us no, that's not what's necessary. You've got to make sure that your clothes are good. What does that mean? What are your clothes? Your deeds, your actions, your talks, your thoughts. Those are our external tools in this world. We have our internal tools, which are our midot, attributes, personalities. We've got our brains, minds, the way that we think, our mindset. People sometimes can be very, they can think in a certain approach. And you cannot change them. That happens a lot. People have certain personalities which is even harder to change. It's harder to change a personality of a person. That's not expected. But the external part, which is the clothes, that is something that we have to make sure that goes according to what Hashem wants. So back to what we were talking about. So Hanoch, that's just to show how sometimes there is an importance to an external appearance. Of course, not in the physical world only, but in the spiritual world. Our physical appearance means the way we talk. Sometimes the way the person talks isn't what he really believes in his heart, but nevertheless, it's very important to talk in a good way. Thoughts as well. It reminds me of another story of the students of the Arizal. They wanted to investigate, they wanted to test what is a Shabbos for them. We know Shabbos is a very special day, it's a holy day, right? Holy and special, but they said, you know what, maybe it's not because of the Shabbos, maybe it's because of the clothes that we wear on Shabbos, right? When we come to Shabbos, we know that there are a lot of things that help us to enter this day. Any examples? What gives us the environment of Shabbos? What are the...
Shabbat table, light.
Shabbos table, light, candles, perfect. Perfect.
And joy.
Joy.
Special prayer,
Right.
Kabbalah Shabbat.
Kabbalat Shabbat, special prayer. What else? What else gives us the...
You put on a nice clothes.
Nice. You put on a special clothes. You go to the mikveh, you prepare special food. This isn't a regular dinner. They said we'll take a Tuesday afternoon, go to the mikveh, wear our special clothes. Towards Shkia, we'll go out to the field where they used to receive the Shabbos, and they started singing L'chun Haranim. They started singing L'chun Haranim, and they felt exactly the same as a regular Shabbos night. They were shocked of it. They said, what, is Shabbos all about the show that comes with it? Is it all about the external part? Is it all about the clothes, the mikveh, the nice food that's prepared,
Behaving differently.
Sorry?
Behaving differently.
Behaving differently. Just the external behavior?
Both. Internal and external.
Right. So, but in other words, what it is that there is an impact to the way we behave, which behavior is external. Because it was a Tuesday night, and there was nothing special about this night. There wasn't any holy light shining on the world on that Tuesday. But nevertheless, they still felt the same feeling. This is all connected to the same king, that his treasures become part of who he is, and they make him, in a certain way, they make him to be who he is. So this is the idea.
Isn't a treasure generally secret?
Yes.
It's not public knowledge.
Not public knowledge. That's why you won't know how much, you won't know where it is exactly placed. And by the way, that's what makes it more of a treasure. The fact that you don't know how much gold the Federal Reserve has in that, I don't know where it is, in the States, there's a certain place where they keep all the gold, right? But hearing that about the United States makes it a great country. Knowing that there is a treasure, that you don't know how much there is exactly, you don't know exactly where it is, that all makes it part of the great country that it is. So right, it's on the one hand being mysterious, but as we say, everyone knows the secret. Everyone knows the secret. It's such a high secret. There's in Beit Shemesh, around Beit Shemesh where I grew up, where my parents lived, there's a army base where it's a secret army base, but everyone knows that it's a secret army base. They say that Israel has a lot of advanced weapons. There aren't any roads that lead there. They go through, I don't know, certain in the mountains, or no direct road that leads to that place. And if you end up close to the area, so it's like they would tell you no drones that you can lift up to the air. If you would search on Google Earth, once we did it because we were curious, we wanted to see. So on Google Earth, it's very interesting. You can see from the top. All of that area is like very blurry. You can't really see anything. So the revealed secret. It's a secret that we all know. We started talking about neshamot and about rewards, and we asked the question, why does the neshama need a reward? Well, there are two parts of the neshama. There are the neshamas that are the treasure of Hashem. They are like that hidden treasure that isn't for no use. We don't do anything with that treasure. It stays there. It doesn't have no job to do. But that is part of the king. That's what makes the king special. The king has, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem has the neshamas of Am Yisrael, the souls of Am Yisrael. And these souls are a special treasure that make Hashem great. But there's no need for these neshamas to do anything. They're not described as sons of Hashem. They aren't described as servants of Hashem. They are just treasures. It's not like the king's going to use them for any war or for any other expense that the king would need. The king does not use this kind of treasure. Hashem does not use these neshamas. And that's why if these neshamas decide to do Torah and mitzvahs in the world, for that reason they receive a special reward. Because they aren't obligated to actually do mitzvot. That level of neshama, that is the treasure of Hashem, that level does not need to do any work in the world here. We all know we were sent on a journey to this world in order to do some kind of mission, right? Because today the question is, everyone believes, a lot of the scientists believe, others are still, unfortunately, not at that point, but a lot of the scientists believe that the world, you have to say, was created by Hashem. No doubt about that. The order that you could see, the fact that the cycles that we could see, and they have better proofs and understand it even better than what we understand it. The question that we can understand logically. There's an additional question. The additional question is, well, what is the purpose of a person being in the world? That's the next level. That is something that's sometimes a bit harder to understand. Or they say, well, they don't believe that God plays with dice, right? With dice. That's the famous quote from Einstein, if I'm not mistaken, that he says, well, why would Hashem interfere with what's going on in the world? And that is what Hasidus teaches us, what Judaism teaches us, is that we are on a mission here. And Hashem cares about our mission. Will be a different shiur to explain why and the importance in that. But we know definitely that there's a mission here. There is one part of the neshama, of the soul, that isn't connected directly to this mission. Hashem doesn't need it for this mission. Why does Hashem need those neshamot if they're not going to carry out His mission? For the same reason that the king has the treasures, the same reason as that businessman goes with the Tesla, the same reason as the prime minister walks around with 20 different guns even though he doesn't really need them. It's all for the prestige of Hashem. Reminds me of another story about, there was one, I'm not sure where she was, where she lived. She wrote to the Rebbe, or she attended private audience, and she spoke to the Rebbe. She was a clinical psychologist, and she wanted to do, she had a doubt if she should do a doctorate. She wanted to become a doctor, but on the other hand, she said, if you're already a clinical psychologist, then people will you can anyways treat people, so why to go into doing a whole doctorate, and it's a headache, 3-4 years. So on the one hand, she said yes, she would like to do it, but on the other hand, she didn't want to really do it. And she asked the Rebbe, should I do it or not? The Rebbe told her, you've got to do it, because of the prestige that it gives you. People will say, clients will say, Jewish clients or other clients, they'll say, I want to be helped by this psychologist. Why? She's a doctor. It adds to the person. Sometimes, technically, this doctorate isn't going to help her with another tool. Maybe she learned from it something else, but she's already perfect to help people out in the field that she studied. But nevertheless, the Rebbe told her, continue with a doctorate. Become a doctor. It will add to your prestige, that will help at the end the people that need your help. They'll say, yes, I want to come to this doctor. Interesting approach. Once again, we see that sometimes external things have a great impact on the person. And this is again why these neshamot, our neshamot, that in a certain sense they don't have a mission here in the world. they're like the treasure of Hashem. When that part of the neshama, again, there are two parts. There's a part that actually is here on a journey for a certain mission. There are higher levels in the person's neshama that are up there. That neshama receives a reward because it doesn't have to do the mitzvot in the world. They do it because of their own will. That's what they want. We've got how's that connected to our Parsha? This is an interesting concept. It's something interesting to discuss. But what is the connection to our Parsha? Our Parsha has a few laws. It has regulations and laws. One of these regulations is Biyomo Titen Schalo, which means when someone works for you, pay him on that same day. Pay him on that same day, and that's what Hashem commands. Hashem doesn't tell us things that he doesn't believe in. Hashem's not a politician. Hashem tells us what he does. Why doesn't Hashem pay us on the same day that we do a mitzvah? Why doesn't he give us the reward now and he waits till the world to come? All the reward should be received on the day that we did the mitzvah. A person should give tzedakah, give charity. He should receive the reward that Hashem gives for a person who does charity right now, today. The same as Hashem wants us to pay someone that does a certain job. The interesting story about a person entering Gan Eden, and they tell him, well, we want to take you for a tour around Gan Eden and Gehenna as well. He enters Gan Eden. He enters first Gehenna. He sees tables with food, with drinks, and everything's so nice and kol kach yafeh. It seemed amazing. He asked him, are you sure this is Gehenna? This looks like Gan Eden. This looks like heaven. So they told him, take a look once again. He takes a look and he sees that no one's eating. No one's eating. The plates are empty. Why? Because they have these huge forks, very long forks, and everyone that tried to lift it up, he couldn't lift it up and place it in his mouth and on his plate. So they were sitting there seeing all this food, unable to eat the food. So he says, okay, let's see Gan Eden. He walks into Gan Eden, and as he walks in, exactly the same table with the same decoration, the same types of food, everything the same. One difference: they were sitting one across each other, and one person used the fork in order to feed his friend in front of him, in order to provide him with food. That's how they enjoyed Gan Eden. So, of course, the story isn't literal, but it brings us to an understanding that the mitzvah that a person does is the reward itself. When I give charity to someone, that is the reward. Helping someone else is the reward, as we can see in Gan Eden. Helping that other person was the reward to me, because when I help him, he's able to eat, and in that same way, I'll be able to eat. It's not like the reward, there's going to be a reward. I'm not going to disappoint you. There will be a reward, a special reward, but at the base of the understanding of the mitzvot is that there's no external, additional, extra reward that you'll enter someday, that you'll receive someday. Hashem gives us every day the reward. When we do the mitzvah, sometimes we can't see the reward, but the reward is there. This is one way to understand, but let's go to because there is a world to come. There's Gan Eden, which is an extra additional reward, and there is Olam Haba, the future world after Mashiach will come. Why doesn't Hashem give us the reward immediately? So if you've ever done shiputzim to your house, renovation, or a new kitchen, new mazganim, you tell the guy, I want to redecorate the whole living room, I want to change the style. How much will it cost? He says, okay, changing the whole thing is going to cost you 30,000 shekel, for example. And perfect. Day one, the guy starts breaking down the walls, and it's a process of, let's say, a month that it takes this guy to do. You don't pay him every day according to the hours that he was there. You pay him at the end. Why? Because it's a project. That's called a kablan. It's a project that he has to do. He's got to finish the whole lounge. He's got to make it look different. It's not that, well, he fixed the window, well, here's for the window. It doesn't work that way. You want to see the whole project. You want to see that he did something. It's not enough that he'll do half a lounge and then he'll leave you with the other half because he's got whatever he wanted. There's a whole project that's here to be done. And this is our mission in the world. Our mission in the world is a project. When we do mitzvot, we aren't technically just doing one mitzvah. Here's one tefillin and that's it. We are here on a project. What is the project? Creating a house for Hashem in the world, down here in this world. Creating this project isn't overnight. It takes years, it takes generations. And that is why Am Yisrael started off in Egypt, and they did a birur hanitzotzot, which is elevating the sparks of holiness and kedusha, elevating it and bringing it to the highest level possible. So now we can understand why Hashem doesn't pay us immediately. It takes a bit of time, but Be'ezrat Hashem, in the world to come, we will receive a reward. What is going to be the, we'll say just in a few words, because Hanoch asked last shiur, we spoke about it last time, what is going to be the world to come? Is it going to be a physical world or a spiritual world? This is a big argument between the Rambam, the Maimonides, and the Ramban, the Nachmanides. And they argue, what is the world to come?
And also the Baal Shem Tov.
So the Baal Shem Tov, he says, and that's the approach that Hasidus tells us, that we are poisek. We go according to the Ramban, the Nachmanides, that it's going to be a physical world, not a spiritual world. And the Baal Shem Tov and Hasidus, we cannot argue against the Rambam. We can agree with the Ramban, because it's many years later. We're not in a position that we could actually argue. But luckily, we have one of the Rishonim that they go according to the opinion that Hasidus takes. So right, the Baal Shem Tov says it's going to be a world of a physical world. Why is that? Shouldn't it be a spiritual world? That's what makes sense. Gan Eden is spiritual, and physical we know is, what is physical? Physical is something that
In the body.
Yes, it's all about the spiritual.
The soul itself is not a body.
Nachon?
We even don't know what it is.
Nachon, 100%. So what is, according,
So what's the point of Rambam?
what's the point of the Ramban exactly? That he says that it's going to be a physical world to come.
That's the Muslim, they make these
100%.
promises to the young people and to blow up the Jewish people around,
Right. And somehow they believe it. So the point is, and this is enlightened according to the way that Hasidus teaches us, and that's why it's important to bring in the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, etc. Because the emphasis is on a physical world. Why? Connected to the mission that we were speaking about previously. We are in a mission of making this world a better place. And this is the reward. The whole purpose of saying that this is our mission, why? Because Hashem has so many spiritual worlds, He doesn't need another spiritual world. Hashem wanted a chidush. Hashem wanted something something special, something unique, something that He couldn't really do it Himself. He wanted us to go into a limited world, a world that you can't see Him, that you don't know of Him, and there in that world to turn it into a vessel for Hashem. And we do that every day by davening, by doing a mitzvah, by putting on tefillin, by giving tzedakah, whatever it is. This is what we are doing here. It's important to understand what are we doing in the world. Not only acknowledging that the world was actually created by Hashem, of course, everyone knows that. That's something logical. But in addition to that, we've got to understand our mission here. And our mission has to do with a physical world, turning it into something good, turning it into something that has a connection to Hashem, a godly world in a certain way. And that's why the ultimate result is that finally we achieve creating from this world a house for Hashem. What would be the purpose if someone would work on something and he would receive something else? That's not true. That's not a true reward.
But there should be a house for Hashem anyway.
Sorry, again?
There should be a house for Hashem, literally speaking.
Oh, 100%.
The temple.
The temple, you 100%. Where in the temple, it's an interesting point. What would be the purpose of a temple when Mashiach will come? But yes, there's got to be a place, like a person, he has brains and he has his mind that is the highest part of his life, of his energy. And then of course throughout the whole body he has life, but there's the brain. That's why there's also the temple that reveals in the best way possible Hashem's existence in the world. That's why there were certain miracles in the temple, just to reflect and just to show us this idea. But that's a very good point, because the whole world in a certain way will be a temple, but nevertheless, still there's going to be the holy temple, Beis HaMikdash, where we'll bring offerings, etc., etc. So just to summarize in a few words the shiur today, we spoke about generally receiving a reward. Why should we receive a reward? We spoke about the fact that there are souls, our neshamot, a part of our neshama, isn't for any mission in the world. And that's why we receive a reward, because we aren't obligated to do certain things. Like the king that has a treasure that he keeps that isn't for any purpose. It's just part of him being a king. Then we spoke about the second part, was talking about why don't we receive the reward now? So we do, because the reward is the mitzvah itself. And as people can tell, people that do good things and do mitzvah, they become better people. It's a fact. Changes, if someone's kind, he changes his nature. In addition to that, we know that this is a project, an ultimate project, that we're trying to create a house for Hashem in the world over here. That's the second part.
So Rabbi, on that, is there a time frame when you should be rewarded or compensated for a project? So 1 week, 5 years?
So it's according to the project. Once you finish the project, you'll get your reward. And that's why we still didn't receive the ultimate reward. Will be in the times of Mashiach, when we'll fully accomplish this project of creating a house for Hashem. Every mitzvah that we do is, again, it's another stone towards this building, towards this house. So right, we are still waiting for the time. In the meantime, of course, we get Gan Eden, which is also a reward, but the ultimate reward is going to be Be'ezrat Hashem soon, in the coming of Mashiach. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And Be'ezrat Hashem, another shiur in 10 minutes. Be'ezrat Hashem.